Potential fight of the night coming up on this weekend's UFC 271 main card. We have the Matrix, Kyler Phillips, looking to avenge his last loss against Raulian Paiva. Very close and controversial fight. He's taking on Pitbull Marcelo Rojo, a guy who, when he wins, does this. And it's weird, and it's not cool, representing Entram Gym. Now, if we go back to pay-per-views of times past, when Brandon Moreno fought Davison Figueiredo, Entram Gym had a bad night. I mean, Silvana Gomez Juarez got beat, even though she was on her way to winning a fight, and then got caught in a submission. You also had Renato Valdez that got knocked down 6 or 7 times. Really, it was 4 or 5. Mike Beltran wanted blood. And then, as the card went on, Michael Morales was able to get the win, and then Brandon Moreno lost. So overall, the gym went 1-3 on the night. We only have one Entram Gym fighter coming up this week, and it's Marcelo Rojo. And if I've ever seen a fighter whose nickname could go from Pitbull to Wildman, it's Marcelo Rojo. And I get it. He lost his last fight to Charles Jourdain. And if you only look at the result on the page and the picture after the fight, you might think, man, this guy sucks. Why is he here? I'm here to tell you why. Because he's an all-action fighter, and whether he wins or whether he loses, he is a lot of fun to watch. And he has fights against UFC-level competition outside of the UFC. You know, I'm talking about Aaron Carter's boxing coach, Jesse Strader. He's got a fight coming up. Exciting stuff. But you look at it, a loss to John Castaneda. Sexy Mexi's coming for that crown at 135. So hot right now. So hot right now at a mini. Who else? I mean, the fight against Levi Saul Marroquin, that was a fun fight. Who else does he have on his record, Matt? A lot of names. A lot of experience. But over with Combate, Marcelo Rojo was the hotness. And you listen to the way that the kind of announcers go through those fights, and listen, they're animated regardless.
They're amazing.
They are amazing. I mean, listen, we're calling the cage La Jaula. Like, I love it. And obviously you would if you're speaking Spanish. But when it comes to Marcelo Rojo, this guy will throw 3 punches to accept 3 punches, and he does it with reckless abandon. And I think in a fighter like Marcelo Rojo brings a different wrinkle to a guy like Kyler Phillips, who's so dynamic on the feet, but sometimes there's wasted movement, and he can wrestle. But sometimes when he almost has the guy finished, he wrestles himself into exhaustion, and it happens, right? Sometimes it just happens. I had his last fight as a draw, 10-8 round 1, 10-9 Paiva, 10-9 Paiva. But ultimately for Kyler Phillips, you look at the losses on his record. Victor Henry, that guy's amazing, right? And Raulian Paiva in a fight that could have gone either way, could have even got stopped in the first round. So it really is a tricky one when you wrap your head around it, because there's opportunities and avenues for both of these guys to pull away with impressive wins.
Oh, without a doubt. And for Kyler Phillips, he should win this fight. Like, let's all just say that right now. Kyler Phillips is expected to win this fight.
Now, Matt said this last week about Julian Rosa, right?
And he won. Looked really good. Here's the thing. Marcelo Rojo is by far the steadier guy in this matchup, though. And for me, this is almost like a confidence-boosting fight for Kyler Phillips, because I think he's the more technical guy. I think he's a better wrestler. And I think, honestly, if we just break down at both guys' skill sets, he's probably better at every individual aspect of MMA. He's got good jiu-jitsu. He's got good wrestling. He's a phenomenal striker. But then you look at the intangibles, like you had brought up with Antonina Shevchenko. She's also good at all of her skills, but it's sort of the intangibles that put it all together. I like Kyler Phillips as sort of a similar fighter. Like, he'll have a great moment, and then you'll worry about the next 5 or 10 seconds and the decisions that he does make. But I look at this fight as, if Kyler Phillips shows up the best version of himself, he should be able to counter Marcelo Rojo quite effectively on the back foot, because Rojo and his forward pressure, it is great, and he does have that eat 2 to give 1 style. But unless this fight gets into like deep second, third round, I don't really know how Rojo is going to be able to get a lot of success going early in this fight, because when Rojo fought Jourdain's there to be hit. He throws with a lot more power than Kyler Phillips, but he's also a lot more hittable than Phillips, whereas with Phillips, he'll jump into the pocket, hit you with a big shot, and jump out. Now, when he does get tired, he will start to fade, and that's when Rojo will be able to close the distance and start hitting him with those big flurries. But I do think the first half of this fight is going to be very difficult for Pitbull.
It really is a tricky one, and the reason I bring up that Rosa fight, it was Julian Rosa should win this fight, but oh, by the way, you're taking on Steven Peterson that doesn't like to make weight and shows up for a car crash. Kyler Phillips should win this fight. Marcelo Rojo makes weight. And again, there's an asterisk there because his last fight was on short notice. It was at featherweight, but he's going to be competing at bantamweight. I'm not worried about the weight. But just like Steven Peterson, Rojo's here for a car crash. And listen, Peterson almost finished Rosa at multiple points. I've never seen somebody get a better chin as their career goes on like Julian Rosa.
Andrei Arlovski?
He's on like a championship level run right now that I am absolutely here for it. I love watching Rosa fight, just like I love watching Marcelo Rojo fight. So again, just like that Rosa fight, I had him in the question mark kicks parlay at a minus 300, and I've never been so nervous watching a fight as when Julian Erosa was losing moments in that one. But Kyler Phillips here, I mean, he opened as a minus 300 favorite. He's a minus 364. Marcelo Rojo opened a plus 250, plus 275 right now. Tapology votes, I'm going to set the over-under at 80% Phillips. Are you going to think it's over or under?
I think it'll be under.
You're going to think it's going to be under? 93% of 816 total voters going with Phillips. 59% by decision, 28% by knockout. For the 7% that have Rojo, 56% by decision, 20% by knockout. Again, this is one that I wouldn't necessarily anchor my parlays with because Kyler Phillips can get hit. He can get tired. Marcelo Rojo is there from round 1 to round 3, and he has wild output.
This is something that does worry me about Rojo, and I'm curious if you do share this sentiment. I think he's going to accept damage worse and worse and worse every time we see him. Because I think we saw a sign of that in the Jourdain fight. Like, you're right. He's always had crazy fights like the Jourdain one. Go back and watch some of his fights from before he came to the UFC. They're absolutely insane. But the problem is when you get into fights like a Nick or Nate Diaz, the damage starts to accumulate on you. And the scar tissue does. And those eyes that used to not get swollen when they got jabbed now start to swell. And the scars now open up when they get hit and they start to form cuts. I just worry that Rojo is starting to enter that stage of his career way earlier than you would like for a guy only making, his second fight in the UFC. So I do worry about Rojo and just the amount of damage he has accepted throughout his career. And I do think that we are starting to see signs of that, especially based on his last performance, because it wasn't like he just got hit by a big shot and fell down because he got knocked out. It was an accumulation of damage to the body and to the head, and I do worry about that stuff moving forward.
It really is a tough one for Marcelo Rojo, and for all of these prospects the UFC starting to sign that are older than 28. And listen, I mean, I kind of threw the jab out there on Twitter. Dana White on the last episode of Looking for a Fight, he was talking about Trey Ogden saying the problem with this guy is he's like 30 or 31 years old. But then they've gone out and signed a lot of fighters that are 30, 31 years old plus. So it really is tough for a lot of these guys and gals to get a statement win, cement themselves in the UFC. When you're 30 or 31, you have to be championship level and you have to go out there and put on really impressive performances if you want to have any semblance of an opportunity at the top 15 and any money at all if we saw what happened in California. I mean, look at Andrei Fialho on the main card making, $12K to lose against Michel Pereira. So for Rojo, the time is now. I don't see it for him. I think he's going to lose to Kyler Phillips coming up this weekend. I think Phillips is more well-rounded, and I think that the wrestling is going to win out for him. But like I said earlier in the video, Rojo has the volume, and he has some power in the end of his shot. So he does have a good opportunity here, maybe more than those odds or the fan vote would suggest. So both of us in this one going with Arizona's own Kyler Phillips representing the MMA lab to carry the torch that was held by one Benson Henderson, big win at Bellator, as well as another Arizona guy, Bader, who's going to be taking on 46-year-old Czech Congo coming up in May. Matt, you're not going to want to miss the rest of this main card. Holy smokes, a lot of big-time fights coming up, including the title fight at the top at middleweight. Adesanya Whittaker #2. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.